Hi, welcome to the Recursion Cafe, where we play games from the discard pile. I'm Paul.
And I'm Sunzida, and here we can see I am playing Elektra on the left there. Her whole gimmick is that she starts off with 1 life with 7 health, and then once she dies, all her and her hands revive and start again on 9 health.
Dan is playing as Wukong, and his gimmick is that he's incredibly irritating. He will basically have clones, he will probably park himself in a corner, and the job of the opponent is to try and get rid of the clones to get to Wukong to actually cause him some damage, which sounds easy and in reality is one of the hardest things to do in the all of Unmatched. Sunzida, what's your thinking in this?
Agreed. I think both me and Dan here are primarily just trying to turtle up, trying to protect our heroes here, and we can see that Dan has brought out a clone, and no one's really moving in just yet. I think both of us are just trying to build up our hands at this point.
Yeah, we've got 1 clone on the board at the moment, 2 clones on the board on the moment now. All of the hand, everybody is just going to be parking up behind, yes, they're meat shields as we like to call, and already we've got Phoenix form, so Dan is already healing himself back to full health. There's 2 Phoenix forms in the deck?
There's 1 Phoenix form.
Only 1 Phoenix form, but it can come back.
Yep, so the whole point with Phoenix form is about regenerating it. Once you've got 3 clones on the board, you can just keep regenerating 3 health back with 72 transformations. We see here a whirlwind into golden chainmail, so that's a good bait attack. However, unfortunately, into a clone. So Dan, I think, ultimately is trying to defend his clones as much as he possibly can, keep them sticking around, keep them being annoying as possible. And so we see Dan hitting back with Ryujin Bang. Elektra successfully defends it, swapping with the hand, and I imagine then taking the 4 on the hand.
The double attacks that Wukong's got are particularly powerful because you've always got the element of risk about whether you think he's attacked or not with it, and whether you defend or not, because if you don't and you've judged it wrong, you might accidentally leave an undefended Ox form, which means you take 7 to the face, which is never a good thing. So a little bit more manoeuvring.
Yeah, we see the hand finally getting a hit on Wukong itself. So yeah, we've got the fist into Slime Monkey, so Wukong takes 1 damage, but is able to then summon a clone and run away once again. Yeah,
plus obviously on this board you've got the additional damage that you can take for high ground, but you've also got, there's no secret passages or anything, so you can turtle up into a corner without too many problems, as long as you've got all of your clones, or all of the hand for that matter, on the board. Hence all of the manoeuvring that seems to be going around.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we just saw a Hands of Red into, well, an undefended Hands of Red into a clone to try and get one of those hands back. And now an Ox form into a Psy. So Elektra can fully defend this if she boosts with a 3, which she has done, or boosted with a 4 rather with Intercept. So that's a fully defended Ox form.
Yeah, Psy is a good card, and then that turns into a great card once she comes back from the dead, because it can be used and kept in hand basically the whole time.
Yep, here we see Wily fighting into Cloaked in Shadow. So we see that effect fainted, however still 1 damage through. I think as Elektra, ideally I think the clones are always going to be an obstacle to get through. I think just staying honestly as close as possible to stop Wukong regenerating his clones is probably the best way forward. Otherwise, as you can see here, this is a lesson well learned. He just keeps bringing them back.
Yeah, and the more you bring them back, the more cards you have to use to get through them. And Elektra's deck is a small deck, although it's going to come back once she dies. And I guess the judgment call is when you start to think about dying, more to the point, because everybody's still on the board at the moment. Well, we've lost a couple of hand, have we?
Yep, we lost 2 of the hand, I think, through Elektra's self-inflicted damage. I think with Wukong here, you can definitely see that his game plan is more damage mitigation and defending rather than doing the damage back at this point. Elektra is still fairly healthy on her first life. So she's getting quite good use of her cards, actually, at this point. And we've seen the fist being regenerated and recurred quite a few times. And we see that this does 1 damage through. And Dan is now choosing between the Ox form and Phoenix form. And, of course, he brings back the Phoenix form, which definitely makes sure that he gets his healing back.
Yeah, it can be the case where you've got melee fighters that simply can't get through to Wukong himself, that the only damage that Wukong ever takes in a match is the stuff that is self-inflicted, which he can then heal back anyway through Phoenix form. I can speak from experience, having played as Bigfoot against Wukong and having caused him 0 damage for the whole game. So it can be quite painful against Wukong.
Yeah. That is a disgusting matchup. I think with Elektra as well, sort of just shimming her way through and standing next to Wukong, you can also do that with the hand, and again, it just stops him from generating clones, like you can see here now.
Yeah, I mean, it should be noted that Elektra is widely regarded as top tier, and Wukong technically is not. Slightly below that, but then in competitive play, a lot of people just ban Wukong out just because of the, negative feeling you get after a game against him. I certainly do.
Yeah, it is definitely frustrating to play against him, unless you are ranged. I think that's the only way you're really going to get through, or unless you're Daredevil and have something like Through Adversity.
Yeah, there are hard counters to him, but even then you have to play as optimally as you can and also get a little lucky. There's always the element of luck in the game.
Oh, for sure. And it's never going to be a short game either.
No, as you will be experiencing by when you're watching this game, which, yes, in real time lasted for how long?
About an hour. Just over an hour.
Okay, that's...
So here we see a Psy into a Tortoise form, and we see that I've boosted with the Fist. So that is a couple of damage through to Wukong.
How many is Wukong on at the moment?
He is on 13 at the moment.
Okay.
12 now.
Now with another clone coming out.
Yeah.
And
Elektra still is on 5, so she's only taken 2 damage and has taken an undefended Rio Jingabang, which is ideal for her. At this point, I probably didn't have defense.
We'll just claim it was tactical mastery, it
course.
was obviously deliberate, and there was a lot of card counting going on. Well done, Elektra. So I can't see how many cards Elektra has in hand.
I think it wouldn't have been very much. I think at this point, the tactic usually with Elektra is trying to keep the Mesmerizers, trying to keep the Mystic Assassins, so you can pull off that combo turn, first turn after she's come back, pull out all of Sun Wukong's defenses, and then happily hit him with 2 6s, which ideally he should take undefended.
Yeah, I suppose as long as you've got all of the hand cards, all of the Mesmerizers, when you die, you keep them in your hand, and then you come back and just hopefully wipe everything on the board out. That would be the theory. Let's see if it happens in practice.
We can see here that Elektra is now decked out, and so has taken undefended Ox form just to basically kill myself off. And she comes back now with 9 health. You can see on the other hand, Wukong still has a fair bit of his deck left, and I think most of what he does is just maneuver attack, and that way he's not going through his deck way too quickly.
So that was that 2 Mesmerizers in a row?
Yes, that was 2 Mesmerizers in a row, with me getting rid of 2 defenses, a bewilderment here we can see, and I think I'm then deciding between and a Tortoise form. But unfortunately he continues to have defense, which really was infuriating. So I start by hitting a clone, and it's defended with Wily Fighting. So I end up taking a damage here, and I think the game plan here initially was to use ninjutsu to kill off the clone, and then move into Wukong to hit him with a 6, to hit him with Mystic Assassin.
I suppose it might be worth pointing out as well that for those who aren't that familiar with Elektra, that once she's dead and she comes back, all of the red text on the cards then takes effect, which in essence makes her way more powerful than she was initially, which was still pretty good in the first place. So now she becomes particularly problematic for the opponent.
Yeah, exactly. So things like Mystic Assassin, which is a 6, initially would do 3 damage if she were on her first life, but then does no damage on her second life.
And likewise, Mesmerize would only let you see the opponent's hand, whereas once she comes back, you get to discard cards as well. You turn into a sort of reincarnated version of Sherlock, which is never a good thing.
Oh god. So we see a whirlwind into a clone, which is primarily just if the clone were to defend. The red text on the bottom says deal 1 damage to the adjacent fighter. It would have killed the clone off regardless, unless it were fainted. But Wukong doesn't have faints.
No.
So
he does have golden chainmail, and he does have mesmerize.
Fiery Eyes.
Yeah. So he's got equivalents that would do well. They do enough. With feints as well, Wukong would be top tier and beyond potentially.
Absolutely, yeah. So we see 72 transformations recur back a Phoenix form, as expected, and we see the Phoenix form be played. Again here, I think Elektra would have been better off, again, moving in adjacent to Wukong so that he couldn't regenerate that clone, and then couldn't recover the whole 3 health.
There are only the 2 clones on the board currently, aren't there? So there are still some opportunities, but Dan is making sure that Wukong is defended as best as possible by clones. So you just constantly keep pinging them off, which means you start to worry about exhaustion as well if you're not careful.
Yeah, it is interesting. Sun Wukong is one of those characters that can even exhaust Elektra, of all people. And we see a Fiery Eyes at Sea be played, and I couldn't. Yeah, so Dan's now put a Mystic Assassin at the bottom of my deck.
Interesting choice. I guess it all depends what's in the hand, but something like Psy would be quite good to get rid of as well, or a Mesmerize, anything like that, but they've all gone already, haven't they? So
yeah, no, exactly.
Maximum achieved from both of those. Wukong is quite low on hand size at the moment, so if Elektra can keep pressing, then it's possible that he might end up with no defense, but equally...
I think Wukong does have the liberty of having a low hand count, though, with clones to protect him all around. If he was running low on defenses, if he didn't have at least 1 defense in hand, I think you would definitely see Wukong running around a bit more, rather than attacking with clones. So yeah, we see a Slime Monkey into a Snake Root Clan. Quite a nice base attack. I don't know if it was intended as a base attack, but works for him because it still kills one of the hand off and generates a clone for him as well. But I think at that point I decided not to kill off the hand because it was only 1 damage.
I guess the game is still being tried to get through to your main hero with everybody else trying to block.
Yeah.
So it's very much like for like in this game, just achieved in very different ways.
Yeah, exactly. We see a Fist into Bewilderment, which means that I can't get any of the action gain off, or at least even if I can, and I think I do, I kill the hand off to gain another action. I think at that point just to build up my hand a bit more. But you can see that Wukong has run away to the other side of the board once again.
I still think Bewilderment is one of the strongest cards in the game. All combat damage disappears, and then it's not even restricted to zones. You can just go anywhere, and on a big map like this, that could be a massive issue if you're only moving 2.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the only things that really counters Bewilderment is Feint, which Elektra does have, but I think she's probably better off using it on defense in this matchup.
The risk with Feints is that I guess it can't be cancelled with Oxform because Oxform doesn't use it out, but
exactly.
It's not a great defense.
Yeah, for sure. We now see here Fire Eyes at Sea once again. With a couple of the Fist in hand and another Mystic Assassin.
So is the Mystic Assassin going to get pulled?
I imagine so. It would have, so he puts Mystic Assassin, the other Mystic Assassin, on the back on the bottom. Interesting choice that he didn't rip out the defense. Ninjutsu especially is one of those really powerful cards that lets you zip across to the other side of the board as well.
Where are we on health count at the moment?
We're currently on 6 to 12 for Elektra Wukong.
Okay, so it's still kind of balanced, or in the balance.
In the balance, yeah, I think both characters are just defending quite well. And with Elektra, a lot of her attacks are going into clones rather than Wukong.
Which is the whole aim of Wukong. It very much suits a defensive kind of player, I would suggest. If you're an offensive player, you wouldn't normally choose Wukong. Great in competitive matches, but doesn't necessarily lead for an interesting interaction for the opponent.
Oh, God, no, yeah.
Just constantly battering away at clones. Although, are there any clones on board?
There is one in the corner there, but we see Wukong boost to come and hit Elektra. So we see a ninjutsu now into an ox form. And Elektra is likely to boost, probably with another intercept, or we see here the fist, so that's just 1 damage overall.
Which is pretty, yeah, Elektra's got some good boost values, which can counter ox form. There are other characters, I'm thinking of the likes of people like Sinbad, who only have wands, mostly through his deck, where ox form could wipe out a porter in one guy. Well, not far off. Yeah, poor Sinbad. But yeah, in this matchup, there's still it's Elektra can steamroller certain characters, and that certainly isn't happening in this case.
No, yeah, for sure. I think with the amount of sacrifice that Elektra has with her hand, it is difficult to play the Wukong game of turtling about everywhere. We see a Taunt and Laughter into a Cloaked in Shadow, so no discard needed for Elektra here, and you can see that I've decided to not move away purely for the sake of just trying to be as close to Wukong as possible.
So we've got 1 hand left, we've got 2 clones on the board.
Yep.
Gong Choma would reflect the damage.
Yep, so that would be 2 damage now to Elektra. And we can see that we're both very, very low on deck. Dan's got no deck, and the 2 bottom cards on my deck are both Mystic Assassins. And so yeah, we see then a Wily fighting.
Oh,
now.
No shake of hands. Oh, there is a shake of hands in the end. For a minute there, I thought there was going to be a mass falling out in Unmatched London.
Oh, no, of course. Yeah, I think pretty handedly down to Wukong there. We see a Wily fighting, ping off that last damage of the intercept. Yeah, thank you for watching.
Yes, come join us again sometime at the Recursion Cafe.